Well, hello there, ladies and gents, and welcome back to Beyond the Book. Ryan Ruff here, your host and moderator. This here's the show where we welcome on some of the world's leading entrepreneurs, professionals, and of course, authors to dive beyond the pages of their books. Today, we got another great book and a fantastic author that set aside some time from their schedule to join me today. The book that we're going to be diving into is a new one on the show. This is the first time we're covering this book. It's a book entitled Unstoppable: Stories of Grit, Determination, and Perseverance. And it was co-authored by a team of these extraordinary entrepreneurs and ultimately spearheaded, if you will, by Lisa Nichols, just a household name in the world of motivational speaking, quite literally across the world. Lisa wanted to bring together this team of entrepreneurs from all sorts of industries and walks of life and have them share their stories of grit, determination, and perseverance. So today we're sitting down with Nat Trodal, and Nat was the author of chapter 13 in the book, which is entitled Broken to Bold: Lessons from a Life Rebuilt. And I want to share a little bit about Nat before we bring her on and get into the conversation today. I'm really excited Nat's joining us. Nat Trodal knows what it takes to overcome challenges. She grew up with an immigrant parent facing extreme poverty, constant instability, and even homelessness. But she refused to let those circumstances define her. Instead, she turned struggle into strength, using resilience and some of that emotional intelligence along the way. She built a life and career that's focused on helping others do the exact same. And now, with over 15 years of experience, Nat helps business leaders and teams think clearly and act decisively under stress, handle tough situations, and create stronger, more successful workplaces. Her approach, it blends this unique kind of intersection of storytelling with practical strategies, and it teaches people how to manage their emotions, solve their problems, and really lead with confidence, even in those high stakes moments. Her message is clear. It's what you learn, or that is when you learn to manage yourself first, you can pretty much handle just about anything life is going to throw your way. And I love that message because it's so often, I think, we can find ourselves just overwhelmed by our situation, overwhelmed by those moments that are hitting us. Look, when Nat's not speaking or coaching, she loves baking, hiking, tap dancing, spending time with her husband, Sean, and their son, Sullivan, in Boulder City, Nevada. I am super excited to welcome Nat to the show today. Nat, thanks so much for joining me on Beyond the
Oh,
Book.
good to see you, Ryan. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Good to be
Yeah, it's
here.
yeah, good to be with you. All right, well, let's start with the obvious. I mentioned a moment ago, you're the author of chapter 13 here in Unstoppable. Man, some of these chapters are just awesome. So many different entrepreneurs experiencing so many different challenges. There's something for everybody in this book, but let's key in on your chapter. Could you give me kind of a brief synopsis or overview on this key theme of broken to bold?
Absolutely, Ryan. Oh my gosh, you nailed it. The stories are just powerhouse stories from all of the different authors. It's
Hmm.
been really a privilege to get to hear everybody's story. The truth behind Unstoppable is that no matter where you have come from, where you started from, what your journey is, right? It could be something like myself, poverty, homelessness. It could be tragedy. It could be trauma. It could just be burnout or the day-to-day of trying to manage and keep everything together. No matter what that moment is for you, you are not broken if you stumble or feel like it's just overwhelming to navigate that. That is what Unstoppable really is about. And for me, the message came when I had my very own breakdown back in 2017. I was showing up to work, just walking the halls like a zombie. I remember I would sit in my cubicle and I would just stare at my computer, like just completely zoned out. I felt dead inside. And it didn't make sense to me. I didn't know why I was feeling that way. But all of a sudden, I was this high performer. I was this go-getter. I loved doing what I did best. And I didn't have the desire to, and I didn't quite understand it. And around that time, I started jumping from job to job to job, thinking that was what it was. And the reality was I was confronted with this breakdown and realizing that people around me didn't really care for me. I wasn't fun to be around. I was always lashing out. And that's when I had to look at myself in the mirror and realize that it wasn't the job, it wasn't the people, it was me. And that set me on the path to learn about things like neuroplasticity and the amygdala. And I know we throw these words around a lot lately, right? Like rewire your brain, but it's true because your past is traumatic for you. Our stories don't have to be even on the same playing field, but we experience trauma and internalize that in different ways. And so this book is really the chapter is where I teach my 3-step framework of how to get out of that. It doesn't have to take you it doesn't have to take you 8 years, excuse me, to do that. It's really just knowing that you're showing up today as you were in the past and what that looks like for you, being able to navigate that. The thing that blew my mind the most is I went to school, I went to college, I have a master's degree. And at no point in time did anybody ever talk about this. Did anybody ever say, hey, the way your brain is working right now, you're not stuck in that. You actually can do something about it.
Mm.
And so that's what this book is.
I love that. Thanks for kind of shedding some light on us. I'm gonna double click a little deeper into this, and I'm glad you brought up kind of the framework because it a lot of the time, we read I don't want to classify this as a self-help book because it's not. It's much more than that. But people read these books and they find great stories from these people that have gone through some really difficult times. And then they think to themselves, well, yeah, but that's not what I'm facing. That's not what your story, Nat, is an extremely relatable one to so many people knee deep in corporate America these days. But also, what your story gives is a framework. There's actionable advice in there that somebody can take and go and run with and implement into their life. So using that as my segue into my next question is you're a busy gal. You're helping other business leaders navigate these high stress environments. We were just talking before we came online today, getting ready to make a transition into doing even more of that. But yet you took time outside of your busy schedule to sit down and write this chapter. So why'd you feel called, for lack of a better word, to do just that and add one more thing to your to-do list during stressful times? Write this chapter, share this message, and get this this actionable framework out to people in the first place.
Yes. I feel that, especially in these times, it, we have so many conveniences, and yet people are still walking around with no time, stressed out, unhappy, burned out. I mean, I don't need to tell you that, but if those things aren't clicking in our minds, that something doesn't make sense. Like, we don't even have to go to the grocery store anymore, right? So you'd think we have all this time to do more of what we want to do, and people are still just checking out. And the reason it's so important for me is because I experienced it at work, and we spend most of our lives at work. I mean, come on, you have a job, right? So we're here, whether it's our own business or working for somebody else, you're doing 40 plus hours at your place of work. And how you do one thing is how you do everything, and how you're showing up is going to then trickle over into all areas of your life. And part of my story was that when that breakdown happened, for the longest time, Ryan, I just thought I was crazy. I don't even know if we can
Mm-hmm.
say the word crazy nowadays, but that's what it was for me. I thought I was
Yeah.
crazy. I had this thing that was wrong with me that I couldn't do anything about. And I had no idea what self-regulation was. I didn't understand that, all the things that trauma actually does to your physiology. And that's what it was for me. I thought I was crazy. I thought I was damaged goods, and I couldn't do anything about it. And when I learned, wait, no, you're just conditioned. Your experiences got you to this. It was completely eye-opening. It was life changing. And like I mentioned before, I was blown away and quite honestly kind of pissed off that
Yeah.
the educational system, like how do you pay, how do you get a master's degree? And at no point in time does anybody teach you like, hey, you can feel differently, you can think differently, you can feel better about yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what it was. And I think more people just need to hear it in a relatable manner. I pride myself on being able to explain things in layman's terms. So not like, academically or scientifically, but
Mm-hmm.
dude, stuff happens to your body,
Yeah.
and it's because of what happened way back there. So if we get into it today, it has nothing to do with me being mad at Ryan. It's something that just got triggered in that moment that happened however long ago. And when you can recognize that how you're showing up is completely, a lot of times just disproportionate to what's going on, that's
Mm-hmm.
the path forward. So really that was it. I got
Yeah.
pissed off. I used to have a college professor that would say, find something to get angry about, but do something about it. So
Uh-huh.
don't
Oh, I like that.
I don't want to say, this is like the people just out in the streets like protesting. You got to have a solution, and this is my
Sure.
solution
I love
to
it.
help people.
I think that's great. I appreciate you kind of peeling back the curtain for us a little bit. That's one of my favorite questions that I always ask to our authors on this show because we get a little bit of what makes the cookie crumble. Let's step back from the book now for just a moment. We'll get back to it in a second. I mentioned, as I was reading through your bio, you work with a lot of business leaders and entrepreneurs to take the lessons that you've learned on how you react to stressful environments and start teaching them and incorporating that into their principles so that they can have more effective teams, that they can navigate these situations with a little more grace than maybe they did in the past. Talk me through what your day to day looks like. How it is that you serve these business leaders and work with them kind of hand in hand, and just what that looks like for you.
Yes, it's very much about the emotional mastery component. And it's interesting. I've had a very interesting career life, if you will, or career history. My background by training is in criminal justice and learning to deal with a lot of hostile, intense situations. I worked in social services. I worked with child protective services. So things were, things can escalate quickly. People's emotions are all over the place. And so I had that background. But fast forward, there came a time when I had that breakdown, and it was because I couldn't manage those emotions. So de-escalation training is a big thing that you learn to keep tensions down. But what I learned for me, and I just flip it now, is that if you were showing up in a heightened state, in a reactive state, you can't implement de-escalation training. Like if I can't calm myself down, Ryan, I'm not going to be able to calm you down, and telling you to calm down isn't going to work. And so it's funny because I transitioned actually from doing those social service, criminal justice types of programs um, to IT and project management roles, which I had no training for. I didn't know what I was doing. I figured it out as I went. And what I realized was, guess what? There's people in that too. And you don't have to be dealing with criminals or high stress moments to realize that other things will cause miscommunications, breakdowns, stress, urgency, things that really just show up in ways that sometimes don't allow people to work together in the best format. So what I do now is just use all of that experience to help people understand that you don't have to show up defensive. Let's figure out why you're showing up this way and then navigate through that. And I'm going to wrap this question up with, the reason I know this works is because when I got to that state of that breakdown, when I'm telling you, Ryan, I was a nasty person to be around. I was a nasty person to be around. And when I started implementing the things that I teach, evaluate, de-escalate, and navigate, I was in a call one time with a client, and I was just doing a demonstration. I was on a Zoom call just like this. We're on camera. We can see each other. And there's a bunch of stakeholders in the room, executive management, just big, big people in the room. And this one person starts peppering me with questions, and it's like rapid fire. So I can feel myself start to kind of overheat, if you will. Like I'm getting hot. I'm not
Uh-huh.
breathing. I'm sweating.
Oh,
I'm
we
just
all
like,
know that moment.
I'm feeling, embarrassed. All the things are coming up because everyone can see us, right?
Sure.
And so I remember just thinking in that moment, just breathe, like just breathe. And I took a breath. I let her finish. And, I said, hey, Amanda, I hear you. I get it. I hear that you're frustrated, but, we're going to take care of all of this. And by the time you get this project delivered, it's going to meet your needs, or whatever it was, right? We wrapped up the conversation. And later that afternoon, I received a voicemail from her boss, who was the director. And she just said, Nat, I was so impressed with how you handled that meeting. I really couldn't believe it. It was very professional. You just handled the frustrations really well. And I just thought
Mhm.
to myself, man, you must have had some de-escalation training. And Ryan, I looked over my shoulder, like I had a visceral reaction to her saying that, because I thought de-escalation training in that moment, the only person I was trying to de-escalate was me. I wasn't trying to handle Amanda. I was just trying to focus on my reaction,
Uh-huh.
because what I wanted to do was tell her off,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, all of the work, all of the grounding and the self-regulation literally just paid off,
Yeah, it works.
where it worked on somebody else and I was able to influence someone else and
Mm.
other people noticed.
Oh,
So
I love that story. That's a perfect articulation of what it is that you do and why you do it. And you lived it. I love that.
yeah,
Thank you for that. Um, Getting back to the book, Nat,
yeah,
since its release, you and I are sitting down having this conversation just a few short weeks since the release. It has quite literally and figuratively flown off the shelves of Amazon.com. It's a best-selling book,
yeah.
making you a best-selling author.
Yeah.
What's the feedback been like from friends, family, colleagues, anybody out there that's kind of seeing you among this group of elite entrepreneurs inked into history, for lack of a better, pun, or not pun, but phrase, with some awesome names like Lisa Nichols, even. So what's the feedback been like?
Of course, everybody wants to know, right? Inquiring mind wants to know, how did you get to meet Lisa Nichols, and how are you doing this book? So that's the first question. But the feedback has been overwhelming. people that didn't know my story are, of course, really leaning into that. But more so for them, it's been, hey, Nat, thank you for this reminder. I really needed to hear this right now. And when I now you poke a little bit more, what did you mean? What specifically? They'll just say they appreciate the reminder that even through their darkest moments, their most painful moments, or when they want to give up, or when they want to throw in the towel at work, or wherever they're at in their life, that it's really up to them to make a difference and that it is possible and they can get through it. So it's been a reminder for, like you said, I mean, my story is relatable in terms of just overcoming obstacles and really getting through the messy times. And that is actually the feedback I've gotten. So I was glad to have nailed it with the story.
Nice.
That people have that possibility that they can get out of whatever moment they're living through.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, I'm sure. I mean, that's always a fun question I like to ask on this podcast is what the feedback's been like because you get so many different answers, but the one common thread is that, people are typically blown away by a lot of the time people are revealing stories that are ones that they kind of held in the back pocket for a while until it took writing a book to pull them out of the back pocket and realize, oh, maybe I should actually share these. And it's always those stories we try to keep guarded that actually connect with people the most. It's just funny the way we operate. But Nat, as we're bringing our conversation to a head here today, what's on the horizon for you? What are you excited about? Looking forward to? Obviously, we want to soak up the excitement of being a best-selling author and the release of Unstoppable. But you have your sights on anything down the road?
I know it's always as entrepreneurs, right? On to the next thing. Definitely
Right, right.
allowing me to soak up and absorb the moment that we're in now. But I do have something very exciting that is coming up. I created a 365-day, it's a planner, but it's also a coaching program. So for those folks that really like to plan out their day and put down their priorities, but then you find yourself just checking off one day at a time and you go through this really cute planner and then you never really get anything done or see the behavior changes or accomplish your goals. It's a combination. It's a coaching program. And it also includes videos from me to help you when you get stuck in those moments. And we're going to work on one goal for the whole year. You get access to the videos, you get the daily prompts to help you start shifting out of whatever emotional state you are, because mine was anger, but yours might be people pleasing.
Mhm.
And so it helps you to identify those. And I'm so excited about it because the reason I created it is so that it's affordable for folks. I mean, I work in the corporate space a lot. I come in, I do workshops, I do keynote speaking, but I wanted to get something in the hands of just everyday people, if you will. And so
Mhm.
I'm very excited. If you can't
Nice.
tell, it's like a passion project, and it's coming up soon.
Well, I love that. And I mean that goes back to a point that I made earlier. Your story and the where your mission has kind of been derived from is a story that is so relatable to so many people going through corporate America. I mean, so many of our biggest organizations employ hundreds of thousands of people across the country, and everybody they recognize that grind mentality, but boy, does it wear on you. And you need some of this help, this training, this framework to be able to navigate some of the complex thoughts that you're dealing with yourself, let alone the thoughts you have about the people you work with, so on and so forth. So this is all awesome stuff, Nat. I'm obviously very excited for you and wish you the best moving forward. But for anybody out there that either A, had a chance to pick up a copy of the book, read through your chapter and felt connected to it, or B, just enjoyed hanging out with us today on the podcast and hearing, all the ins and outs really, what would be the best way somebody could find you online, open up a dialogue, so on and so forth?
Yes, you can find everything about me on my website, nattrodahl.com. That's NATTRODAHL.com. And I'm also on Instagram and YouTube. The handle there is also just at Nat Trodahl. And I would say just join me along if any of this resonated with you. I like to keep it real. I like to keep it down to earth, have the hard conversations. But most importantly, if you're ready to regulate your nervous system, get control of your emotions so you can start living here in your real reality, yeah, come find me. I'd love to have you in my space.
Awesome. Well, Nat, thank you again for carving some time out of your busy schedule to join me today. And we wish you all the best in your continued success.
Thanks so much again, Ryan. It's been great seeing you.
Of course, always is. Hey, look, folks, we want to take a final moment, as we always do on this show, and thank you for making us a part of your day. If you enjoyed today's discussion, if you learned a thing or two, make sure you hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you checked us out on today so that you don't miss out on any future conversations where I sit down with some of the world's leading entrepreneurs and authors, and we dive into those pages beyond their book. But look, for Nat Trodahl, I'm Ryan Ruff. We're going to go ahead and say so long, but we appreciate each and every one of you stopping by and being with us on Beyond the Book.